This is Brian Demars versus Martin Goldman-Kirst.
So this time Imperial Recruiter in play, but no Allurin.
Right.
No Allurin with it. Looks like Demars has set up counterbalance without the top, but also has a threat whittling away at Martin in Vendilion Click.
So here comes Reclamation Sage, potentially taking out counterbalance. Looks like it will, but counterspell on top for Brian Demars.
Sort of like a double-edged sword. I got the counterbalance out, but you're drawing counterspell.
Looks like the only card in hand for Brian Demars is the counterspell. So Vendilion Click threatening to close the game out pretty quickly, but we could see Martin Goldman-Kirst put together, a series of 2 threats in a row, one to draw at the counterspell, and then, followed up maybe with an Allurin or something like that.
Playing the 4:30 modern event. Your pairings have gone up on the Jace banner.
That was a Parasitic Strix followed by a Baleful.
Wow, into Eternal Witness.
Oh, wow. He drew that off of the
Baleful. Oh,
amazing. But here comes Entreat the Angels for 3 Angels.
Martin's down to 7, so... Yep, I like attacking here with Brian. Either he trades, and it's 1 less blocker for your Angels, or he doesn't trade, and every Angel's lethal.
That was truly a miracle Entreat there.
Yeah.
That was like the game was just turning around.
I wonder
if Brian had set that up over the course of a couple turns before we saw.
Right.
I would guess probably not.
I wonder if there's anything to Recruiter for to survive here. What a draw. It looked like a pure miracle to me.
Yeah.
He actually, you know what? He almost certainly didn't know what his top cards were, because the previous turn he tried to blind counterbalance the Reclamation Stage, which he clearly wouldn't have done if he had known.
Not a lot in the Allurin deck that can get him out of this situation. I mean, he needs either to win this turn or to somehow stop 4 flying attackers, any 2 of which will be lethal.
Only 3.
Sorry, stop 4 power flying attackers is what I meant to say there.
Right. Is there any way he can just gain 2 life? And I guess he also has to play a flyer. But he hasn't conceded. It looks like he's casting another Imperial Recruiter. He's going to cast Brainstorm and then concede. Wow. What a card.
Yeah. Incredible comeback there with Entreat the Angels.
That's why they call it miracles.
So that was game 2. Both players tied 1 game apiece now. This is our quarterfinals here at Grand Prix Seattle-Tacoma. This is the Legacy format for those just tuning in. This matchup between Brian Demars on Blue, White, Red Miracles versus Martin Goldman-Kirst playing Allurin. Headed into game 3. Just a few minutes ago, we saw Christian Calcano triumph over Andres Prost in their quarterfinal matchup. Calcano will be moving on to the semifinals. Now let's take a look at sideboards here, Huey. Anything you see from either player that stands out to you?
So the Allurin deck will likely bring in Carpet of Flowers, Thoughtseize, Force of Will, 2 Swan Song, Abrupt Decay, and Crossing Grip. Some combination of those cards, if not all of them.
Okay.
The Miracles deck will probably bring in Wear Tear, Vendilion Click. Is it Staticaster I could see?
Mm-hmm. Now, Containment Priest does not work against Allurin, right?
No,
they are being
cast.
Yeah.
And then I guess I could see Blood Moon depending on how the lands have looked from Brian's side of the table.
Right.
Like if it looked like, you know what, there's a lot of non-basics over there. As we know, he has 4 basics, Martin does. 2 forests and islands and a swamp.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on how the first game went or the second game went, I guess they have deck lists, so that 4 basics might be a little much
you think
to
might not bring in the Blood Moon, yeah. Okay. And do you have a favorite here in this matchup, either in terms of who you think is favored to win or just which deck you'd like to see come out on top?
Yeah, I mean, we've covered a lot of miracles this weekend. I would probably, I don't really know Martin. I do know Brian, but as far as decks go, I'd probably rather cover more Allurin than more miracles.
Sure, that's definitely fair to say. I definitely appreciate these sort of oddball decks. I mean, Allurin's not completely unheard of, but it is one of the rarer decks to see in Legacy, and it's also a deck that doesn't really exist in a similar form in any other format.
Right. But I mean, I do like miracles too. It's just that I don't mean to put that deck down, but Allurin is just different. It's really different. You don't see it that often. It's fun.
Yeah, totally agree. Brian Demars, the really experienced player in the Eternal formats, plays a lot of Legacy, a lot of Vintage.
Right.
I've played against him personally at a bunch of Legacy GPs in the past. He's always a mainstay. Big name in the Vintage scene as well. So pretty cool to see him having a lot of success here this weekend. Martin Goldman-Kirst, I think Marshall was talking a little bit earlier. He's a local player, I think a school teacher.
Oh, nice.
We got the story correct there, so awesome to see him succeeding as well. I think he's a player who doesn't get to play a ton of Magic, but maybe views himself a little bit more as a Legacy specialist or comes out when the Legacy tournaments are around, so that's awesome to see as well.
Yeah, I was talking to Jerry Thompson, and he lived in Seattle for a while, or Renton or wherever, and he said Martin's been playing Allurin for like 5 years. So
very cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to see these specialists who have like a unique deck that they really like and they test and tune, and they're kind of like the world expert in what they do. It's
I
very
definitely
cool to
agree.
watch.
That's one of the cooler things about Legacy.
So it looks like both players all sideboarded up, shuffling each other's decks. And we will be into this third game very shortly. The winner of this game advances on to the semifinals. And let's take a look at our opening hands. Now, if you're Brian, what are you looking for in your opening hand?
Good question. Cheap interaction, Force of Will, cards that stop Allurin. Sensei's Divining Top is your best card. Counterbalance to go with it. Ways to Ways to rebound from hand destruction are always good. Like opening hand ponders and brainstorms are quite good, so that if Martin goes the approach of casting early thoughts, these are things like that. You can sort of rebuild your hand. Sensei's Divining Top sort of helps for the same reason.
And from Martin's side, looking for maybe like a turn one Deathrite or some card selection, brainstorm, always good in the opening hand, or maybe hand disruption also.
Yeah, hand disruption's great.
Yeah. And here we see Cabal Therapy, probably naming something like Brainstorm or Sensei's Divining
Probably top.
Top, yeah. Looks like in any case it did miss. But does give Martin a lot of information about the hand there. And the cool thing about this Allurin deck is it does have some disposable creatures like Baleful Strix that you can use to flash back the Cabal Therapy and get a little bit of a card advantage.
Right, a lot of the creatures sort of just replace themselves anyway.
Yep. Looks like he did name top there, so good call. And here's Baleful Strix.
Drew a Shardless Agent, so he might just be on 1-1 and 2-2 beatdown mode for a little bit.
Yeah, now this Allurin deck is actually pretty interesting. I'd seen Allurin decks from several years ago that were a little bit more all-in, like trying to turbo out the Allurin with a bunch of mana producers, or like the sacrifice for 2 mana lands, or the
like Food
Mercadian
Chains
Masks,
and stuff like that, yeah.
You know, like Hickory Woodlot, I think, is the one I'm thinking of.
Scary,
yeah, those kind of lands too. That version I haven't seen in a while, so perhaps it's fallen out of favor. Then again, I haven't seen too much Allurin in a while anyway.
Exactly, right.
But what I like about this version is that it's a little bit more mid-range. He has the Shardless Agent Baleful Strix package, so he can kind of grind out value, and he's got a lot of card
He just has
selection
Abrupt Decays in his main deck, Hand Destruction, Brainstorm, Sylvan Library. I love Sylvan Library.
So it's almost like a mid-range, Shardless Sultai deck, but with this combo finish here too. So very cool.
So Martin knows Brian's hand, with the exception of a couple cards. And he's going to go ahead and flash back the therapy. Named Jace the Mind Sculptor. Makes sense. I mean, the rest of his hand wasn't that interactive. He doesn't want Brian to somehow be able to bridge the gap into Jace. And what it also does is, by casting the Cabal Therapy on Jace, he gets to see what cards he's drawn, and if one of those is particularly threatening, he can cast his other Cabal Therapy to follow up. As it stands, a Swords to Plowshares and a Wear Tear,
Yeah, Brian has plenty of cards in hand, but actually not a lot proactive to do. So he just kind of has to sit back and make his land drops and hope that what Martin does
he doesn't have anything to filter his draw. He has no top, no Brainstorm, no Ponder. He just has some lands and a couple removal spells that aren't even that effective in the matchup. So, but he does have fetch lands, and his deck has Brainstorms, and that hand can change from a 4-land hand into a 2-land hand, or a top or something like that at a moment's notice.
So it looks like we did see Shardless Agent into Abrupt Decay, which of course has no targets. So
that's pretty unlucky for Martin there to hit one of the cards he just can't cast. Given that he already has one of his Abrupt Decays in his hand.
And Brian with the Terminus off the top there. Of course, not going to use it on just a single 2/2. Another Shardless Agent into another Abrupt Decay. So pretty unlucky there.
He only plays 3. He already has one in his hand.
Right, and he has so many just random 2-drop creatures that he could hit. Even if he just hits like a Dreamstalker or something, well, at least he has a
Cavern Harpy and start returning the Shardless Agents.
Actually, Dreamstalker is pretty sweet with Shardless Agent too. You just rebuy it.
It's great. Going. Although you have to have one in play already, because if you cast the first one, the Cascade spell resolves first.
So in comes the 2/2 beatdown.
Ball Therapy again.
You think this will name the Swords to Plowshares that he already knows about, just to guarantee that he hits a card?
If Brian doesn't cast it, yeah. I mean, I guess Wear Tear also kills Shardless Agents, so he could just fire both off, kill the Shardless Agents. I mean, it's probably not worth it. He'll probably just let him take one.
Yeah.
And then he still gets to see the rest. It is useful to know about the Terminus, even though he can't Miracle it. He doesn't have a Brainstorm or anything like that. In 2 turns, he can just cast it.
Yeah, it's true. Martin picks up a Brainstorm here. Gets in for 4 first.
These Shardless Agents are doing damage.
Yeah, that can be a really good strategy against Miracles, is just get like a very small board presence and just keep attacking with it and then just biding your time, and don't really play into anything the Miracles player could react with. Don't let the Miracles player get too much value off of a Terminus or something like that. I mean, you do have to worry about giving them time to set up, Counterbalance Top or Jace or something like that, but as we talked about earlier, sometimes just random like 1/1 and 2/2 beatdown can do a lot of work against the Miracles deck in Legacy. So is this hard cast Force of Will on the Brainstorm?
Yep.
I guess Brian knows that Martin has missed some land drops and is maybe worried that he'll hit 4th land and cast Alurin. Although in that case, maybe you just save the Force for the Alurin.
Well, it's main phase, so
buying time.
He wouldn't be able to cast the Alurin this turn.
Not this turn, but yeah, Brian knows that Martin recently saw his hand and knows he doesn't really have any way to stop a combo. So he may just be cutting off the card selection and maybe preventing a land drop from happening or preventing Martin from finding combo pieces. Pretty tough situation for Brian. I feel he had a little bit of an unlucky draw this game, not finding any kind of Ponder or Brainstorm.
Yeah, that is a bit unlucky. So Martin opted not to... He had a therapy he could flash back. I think he did. I think he only therapied 3 times. So is that...
I believe that's the case. I think he just therapied and took the wear tear that turn.
Like he cast it and whiffed on top, and then he cast it and took wear tear, and he cast it and took Jace. That was it, right? Those were all the.
Yes.
I guess he just felt like he doesn't want to waste it on a terminus.
Yeah,
for a
he
couple
might
tutus.
Be fine getting the tutus.
I guess he knows the plow's there anyway. It's like if I therapy away the terminus, then it's just like 1-for-1, and then he can just plow the other one.
Here's Baleful Strix, cantripping another Cabal therapy there, and Deathrite Shaman. I guess he just values having access to the Cabal therapy in his yard. If he ever draws into a Lurin, an Imperial Recruiter, he can just set that up and clear the
definitely.
path. So it makes some sense. And Brian Demars picking up another Force of Will, which he can hardcast here. Prevents the possibility of a Lurin this turn. But as we know, Martin does not have either a Lurin or Imperial Recruiter just yet.
So Martin has no red mana, so he can't play the Recruiter and just start getting more Recruiters as some kind of like... I mean, Brian's at 7. It's not the worst strategy.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't even think it would have been out of the question to just put Reclamation Sage into play right there.
Wow. Nice draw here for Brian. This could be the start of a comeback.
Well, unfortunately, the Abrupt Decay that Martin's had in his hand the whole game will just make pretty quick work of that.
So Martin with a 5th land, Abrupt Decay, Imperial Recruiter, and Reclamation Sage. Abrupt Decay takes out Monastery Mentor.
Is Brian going to Force Will it to get a Monk?
It's interesting.
Does not seem interesting. That's not the word I would use to describe it. Okay.
Scared me for a second there.
Yeah, he probably was like, oh, he's killing my mentor, I have to Force Will it. And then as he was shuffling, realized what was happening.
Maybe, yeah.
Because you wouldn't want to fetch there. If you draw something like Brainstorm, you really want that fetch then to be in play. Oh, there's Invisible Stalker. Or Dream Stalker, excuse me.
Yeah.
I think this will get a counter.
Yep.
Got to do it.
Yeah, threatens to rebuy the Baleful Strix.
I definitely think you want to put Reclamation Sage into play. Threaten lethal.
I agree.
Jace.
Here he is.
Wow.
If anyone can do it, it's Jace.
I agree. He's going to Brainstorm. Kind of peek around the corner. Oh.
It's like Monastery Mentor, Counterbalance, Wear, Tear, and Ponder.
Tear is the one that the artifact destruction on Wear Tear costs 2, right? It's a red and 1. It's Shatter and Erase or whatever, effectively.
Right. So single white for the enchantment removal, but 2 mana for the artifact removal. Baleful Strix is an artifact, so Wear Tear can remove that.
Right. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
But he couldn't play Monastery Mentor and Wear.
And yeah.
Or Tear.
Tear. I think it's Tear. Could be wrong. All right, so Monastery Mentor comes down. Ponder makes a Monk. Monk can block Reclamation Sage, so this is not lethal damage just yet.
Parasitic Strix or Red. Red makes it lethal, right?
With
the Recruiter in hand.
Recruiter for Parasitic Strix and play it, yeah.
But he doesn't draw it. He draws
Volrath Stronghold. Okay. Still, Volrath Stronghold's not bad here. I mean, he could start putting Baleful Strixes on top of his library and
it's fine.
I mean, the dangerous part is, even with Brian at 2, like, Jace plus Monastery Mentor can take over a game very quickly.
Yes. What does Parasitic Strix do exactly?
So it's 2 and a blue for, I think, a 2/1 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, if you control a black permanent, you drain your opponent for 2,
all right, so,
I believe.
So the wear actually takes care of it, or the tear, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just say the wear tear.
The wear tear. It's more fun to keep guessing which one is which.
So top and counterbalance come down, make 2 more monks, triggering prowess twice. Okay, a little bit of discussion between the players here, maybe over the sequencing of events or the triggered abilities going off. Top activation.
No, I think it's looking like Brian's going to go on and take this game. These are 2 games in a row that, like, we came to this match. It looked like Brian was about to lose. Then he miracled that entreat.
Yeah.
And then this game, I mean, to be fair, in this game, he just got pretty unlucky. He just drew a lot of lands and not a lot of interactive spells. But dead on board the following turn. Jason Mind Sculptor.
Off the top.
Yeah. And also, Martin ran really badly this game with his Shardless Agents, where he effectively just played all Grey Ogres.
That's true, yeah.
Grey Ogre,
Legacy
2 Grey Ogre
powerhouse.
Shardless Agent, a Grey Ogre Reclamation Sage.
So we mentioned before that red mana would allow Imperial Recruiter into Parasitic Strix, but now Brian has Wear Tear floating on top of his library, which he can access with the top, and that can actually kill Baleful Strix in response.
And it can just counter all those cards with Counterbalance.
That too, yeah, that's true, yeah. Is that the interaction with Counterbalance and split cards? Is it the total combined converted mana cost?
I believe that's what it is, yeah,
Okay.
I think. I'm not sure, like, Reviving Vapors would gain the total,
Yeah.
but I think if you have a split card in your graveyard, it has to, like, target one of the cards or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's confusing.
it could also be like you reveal a card and you're actually revealing 2 cards now, so it counters it if it matches either of
that
them,
could
but not the
be.
combined
I don't
amount.
think that's what it does, though. I think Wear Tear counters 3s.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird interaction. There's not that many split cards that get played. I guess Fire Ice and a few others, but
apparently it's either or.
It's either or.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the latter of what I said.
Legacy pairings for your 3rd round have been posted again on the Chandra banner in the middle of the hall. Again, that's players in the 230 Legacy. Your pairings on the Chandra banner.
So Brian at 1 life here. Now, is Allurin off the top for Martin also lethal?
If it resolves, I mean,
Yeah.
the problem is Counterbalance still counters the creatures, even though you're paying 0. They still have a converted mana cost.
Right. So he would need like all of the creatures involved in that chain to be able to dodge various converted mana costs on the counterbalance, right?
Right.
5 p.m. Fast Seal players. Your seedings for deck construction are posted on the Chandra banner by assignment stage. 5 p.m. Seal players. Your pairing for your seedings on the Chandra banner by assignment stage.
So end of turn, Wear Tear takes out the Baleful Strix, which is an artifact creature. Top is replayed. In comes a monk, and the die on Monastery Mentor representing the number of prowess triggers this turn. So Brian clearly thinking about setting up lethal this turn. He's got the top.
He just needs one more spell.
Imagine this is Jace activation first? No, top
That was a
rearrange.
top, yeah.
Rearrange, okay.
Now that's the Jace
That's
activation.
the Jace activation.
Here's another top, which represents lethal.
Right, because now the tops can just
and Martin concedes.
cycle.
Wow, what a match.
Amazing.
Yeah, unreal.
Yeah, if you asked me about midway through that game, I would have said there's like almost no chance that Brian wins.
Me too.
So,
I thought it was super. I mean, I certainly didn't think he would win like that. Like, I didn't think it would be like Jace into like wear tear for your baleful Strix, you know?
Pretty awesome match there. So congratulations to Brian Demars, who will be advancing on to the semifinals. Very, very good run for Martin as well. Pretty cool.